I'm Kerry Peters, a recognized thought leader in the Microsoft Dynamics community and a Microsoft MVP for business applications. Welcome to the Get Your New View podcast. Keep listening to learn how we work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers that they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better business decisions, and even love their system. Welcome to our next episode of Get Your New View podcast. I've got a special guest, Cynthia Priebe, here today with me to talk about landed costs. So Cynthia, why do companies put off using landed costs until a phase 2 project?
Well, first thing I was going to say is because a lot of times they don't even know what that means.
Let's talk about that then. What does that mean?
Yeah, so it really has to do with the size of the company, right? Some companies, if you said landed cost, they know exactly what you're talking about. Other companies, you say landed cost, and they're like looking around going, okay, and they don't want to admit they don't know. Landed cost is the ability to include not just what you paid for the unit or the unit cost, but all the ancillary or additional costs associated with getting that item to land on your receiving dock. Okay? It's not because it came in on a plane. It's not because it came on a boat. It's no matter how it got there. And what I'm referring to would be the delivery cost. What are you paying to have it shipped there? Now, some organizations, when they look at the unit cost of the item, that's the delivered cost or the landed cost. But maybe there's a surcharge for fuel now. Maybe there's a surcharge because you're storing something somewhere else, i.e. on that vendor's site, because you need to backstock it because guess what? We don't know when we can get it again. And now all of a sudden you have more than just that unit cost involved. That's the time, and that's what we're starting to see now, where all of a sudden the landed cost isn't really the unit cost. It's got some of them in there, but not all of them. Do you think that makes it clearer, Kerry?
Yeah, that does make it clearer. So I know that a lot of companies, before they start using Business Central to track this, they use a whole network of spreadsheets and manual adjustments to try to keep up with that. And it's really time intensive and ultimately often doesn't end up being very accurate and certainly not efficient. So how does Business Central handle landed costs for people who've not done that in Business Central before?
So if I kind of split it into two major ways that it's handled. One would be in that you're receiving an invoice from a vendor and you have that unit cost listed, and then you have line items on that invoice. You've got a fuel surcharge, and maybe now you've got a delivery upcharge. Let's say that for some reason now you've had to change the method in which you're having it shipped to you, so there's an additional charge, or there's always been that separate charge on there. At the time that you are receiving that invoice from that vendor and those costs are included separately, in the past, you'd see organizations just use a GL account, for freight and put it against freight or put it against some surcharge account. Well, in Business Central, we can actually use what's called a charge item or an item charge, and then go through a process, which is not hard to do at all, right on that invoice or that purchase order as you're invoicing it or vouchering it, and apply that amount of freight or surcharge to be addressed or included in the unit cost calculation of the items that are included on that invoice. And what's really cool about it is when I look at that item ledger entry and I see that unit cost will include that number. But I can also look down in the detail and see that part of that unit cost is the actual direct unit cost, and the other part of it is related to those ancillary or additional charges. So way one, I can handle it right when it's on the invoice. Here's the one that I think stops people from doing this. And that is they get a separate invoice from the shipper. Well, oh yeah, I get that at exactly the same time that I get the invoice that I'm going to use on the purchase order. Not. So how do I take something that I might get 2 or 3 weeks later? I get the pro, I have all that other documentation, but the actual invoice from the shipper, how do I apply that? Well, guess what? I can use a similar process when I voucher that invoice from that shipper. I can indicate that it's an item charge, and I can go get the receipts in Business Central that shipping applies to and get the same end result, where I will be able to look at the unit cost of that item. I will see it including that freight. It will be allocated based on my method of allocation. And I can go and I can look underneath at the value entries, and I can see which portion of that is the actual unit or direct cost and which portion is from the shipping. So that mystery of how the heck do I handle that freight or surcharge, or guess what? Storage charges, right? I get a monthly invoice for storage. How do I allocate that? So there's all kinds of things that I can do with those after the fact costs that impact what I'm truly paying for that item. And Kerry, I don't know if you're going to ask me this question or not, but if your salespeople are paid on gross profit, and you need to take into account those costs as cost of sales as compared to something that's ending up just in some freight account, you're getting a truer picture of what the profit is on each item. And if you're compensating salespeople on that profit, I think that probably makes sense to have a more accurate picture.
Excellent point on the commissions, because I think a lot of people forget that is part of the puzzle. We're talking about the cost of the inventory that we have. So is it difficult to put landed costs into place after go live?
Not at all. It really isn't. It is about the process.
Yeah.
It's not about the functionality in Business Central. Once you understand what you need to do, and you do a few of them, you kind of have to think a little bit differently and change your process. So now maybe you're going to add a couple of clicks, but I would gladly add a couple of clicks to have more accurate information. So no, I don't think it's difficult. It's just knowing what you need to do, setting the process in place, and then following it.
Do you have phase 2 projects that have been on your to-do list for way too long? Did your team ever really get good training to understand how to use your business software? Do you think you could use more features of your software if you just knew how? Are you frustrated with inefficiency that never seems to get better? Do you suspect that there just has to be a better way, but you don't know what that is? We believe every company can benefit from increased efficiency and higher utilization of their software, and that it's possible to have fun while learning exactly how to do that. The experts at NewView Strategies work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better business decisions, and even love their system. Please contact us at getyournewview.com to get started. Right. Yeah, I know that I've done this particular one with quite a few of our customers, and it's really involved a little bit of time to understand your processes and some training to show you how to use the software in a different way. And then a little bit of follow-up to make sure that everything's moving along just fine, that you're not having any hurdles, which all can be addressed. And that consultative time and training is really what's behind all this.
I think the thing that takes the most effort is the fact that it is not just an accounts payable thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just an invoicing thing. It's something that can have a significant positive impact on the whole organization. So if you're looking at this just as this is something we need to do in accounts payable, that's probably completely wrong. If anything, it really originates over where we're looking at purchasing and requisitioning and what we're pricing our products at. It's really a conversation over there. And the understanding that by making a change in how we voucher invoices will have that impact over here. So it goes back to, again, one of those phase two things that if it's thought of as either something over here for costing our product and or something over here with AP, it's an and.
Yeah.
It's kind of, and I think that's the thing that holds it up sometimes is just getting that coordinated. Once you get that coordinated, it's not a hard thing to do it really at all.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite customer story about somebody who put this into place?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting one. It actually goes way back. So there was a product line that a new sales manager was brought into the company. We'll start at the beginning. A new sales manager was brought into the company, and he had experience, came from a different company. He had experience in this whole kind of related, similar kind of product category. And he just, touted how great this product sold, how well it did, how profitable it was. And everybody at the organization was really, really excited. And what was really interesting in it, everything else that organization sold, their unit cost was landed cost from their vendors. So if it said they were paying 10 cents, they paid 10 cents and there was no shipping charge added to it. It was always 10 cents. Okay. Now, just for the sake of example, this other product line, the way this stuff was shipped and came in, the unit cost was 10 cents, but all of the shipping was, and all the shipping charges, and then at that time, this goes back when we first added surcharges, fuel surcharges and everything, that was all added on. Mm-hmm. And this sales manager just was selling the heck out of this product that he was really comfortable selling because he sold it at the other place. He convinced them what a great deal it was. He was not pushing or selling what they normally did, but he said that doesn't matter because look at all the revenue this is bringing in. But they couldn't figure out why at the end of the day, even though the revenue was equal to what they were doing before, they had less money left over, right? i.e. net profit. And it turned out it was because these shipping costs were astronomical. It was a heavy product. So he touted the profit as being the same and they could sell way more of these, and it wasn't. So what we did is we put in landed cost. Now, guess who was against putting the landed cost into place, right? Thankfully, the sales manager wasn't needed to do it. And it became realized that they were putting all this energy into a less profitable line. Now that's pretty dramatic and it was a really cut and dry kind of thing. But can you imagine if you had a whole range of products, some that you were receiving and were costed to you or priced to you landed cost and some that weren't, and you were trying to compare those without doing landed cost? You'd have a real problem in determining what was most profitable in your organization, I would think.
Yeah. No, great story. Great examples in there. So what kind of things can companies do to prepare to put landed costs into place?
I think it's to look at whether or not and or which products your cost is truly landed, i.e., there's nothing else associated with the acquisition of that product, and which ones that is a different situation. And then what I usually do is I say start small, because you need to look at it case by case. And when I say start small, I'm not saying that you're going to phase this into like a 2 + 2 + 2 phase, but look at a particular group of products or a particular product or item category, if you would, and look and see what the impact of this would be and what it takes to do. There is a little bit of setup involved. You have to set up these charge items or item charges, however, whatever you want to call them. But once you get those set up, it really isn't that big of a deal. I think it's just getting a grasp on the concept to begin with and kind of taking it in baby steps, and then it just becomes second nature.
Yeah. Wonderful. So how does NewView make it easy to implement this type of a thing in a phase 2 project?
A couple of things. One, we try to take what to some people can be a complicated process, or at least thinking about it, and putting it into simple terms and explaining in graphically or in the written word or showing in Business Central, because everybody learns or understands things differently, in a way that we can make sure that each group that will be involved in this, getting this process up and running, understands what it is and what a huge positive impact it will have on the information available to the organization to make business decisions moving forward. And so we help and we hold the hands through that part of it. But then usually what happens, maybe I'll say we hold the bike, so we have the training wheels, right? And then we take the training wheels off and then we let go of the bicycle. And usually what happens is we stop trying to run behind to keep up.
Yep.
Because somebody's on that bike and they're off and running. So we have a process to get you through the process. How's that?
Perfect. I love it. If you're somebody who's listening to this episode and this is something you're interested in, contact us today. It's super easy. Just send a quick email to info@getyournewview.com and we'll set up a quick 30-minute call to talk about how you can get phase 2 projects like this done at your company. Did your team ever really get good training to understand how to use your business software? Do you think you could use more features of your software if you just knew how? Are you frustrated with inefficiency that never seems to get better? Do you suspect that there just has to be a better way, but you don't know what that is? We believe every company can benefit from increased efficiency and higher utilization of their software, and that it's possible to have fun while learning exactly how to do that. The experts at NewView Strategies work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better decisions, and even love their system. Please contact us at getyournewview.com to get started.